All right, so are you ready to dive deep into better English conversations? I
Yeah.
mean, you've given us a lot to work with here.
Yeah.
3 YouTube videos, a couple of text articles,
Wow.
and they cover everything from interview skills to, like, everyday phrases.
It's a good mix.
Yeah. So instead of you having to go through all of that, we're going to pull out, like, the absolute best stuff,
The gold.
the gold, the
Yeah.
stuff that can really make a difference.
I like that. Yeah.
Beauty.
Absolutely. I think what's so interesting is we've got so much variety here. It shows a real commitment to improving communication in different ways.
For sure, for sure. And speaking of variety, one of the things that I was surprised by was this tip from the Urban Fight,
Okay.
which is a fitness YouTube channel.
Right.
But they actually talk about how important sleep is before a job interview.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It might not be the first thing that comes to mind, right?
Right.
But, when we're well rested, we think more clearly, especially under pressure. And we project more confidence. So
Makes sense.
it's all really important for those first impressions.
I guess it's kind of like fake it till you make it. But in this case, the sleep actually helps you be more confident,
Exactly.
not just like appear more
And
confident.
you're not faking it. You're actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But then, of course, confidence also comes from knowing what to say.
Yes.
And that's where CareerVids comes in because they've
Yeah.
got some really good answers to those classic interview questions like describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh, yeah. And they suggest productive, commercially aware, and self-motivated.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I thought that was really good because it moves beyond just personality traits
Yeah,
and actually speaks to qualities employers would be looking for.
for sure. For sure. It's like a cheat sheet, but of course you don't want to sound like a robot.
No,
So adapt the answers to your own experience.
definitely. Yeah.
But I'm curious, what 3 words would you use?
Oh, that is a tough one. I think I would say curious, insightful, and maybe a bit too enthusiastic about the details sometimes.
Okay, that last one made me laugh. But having those examples as a starting point is helpful, right?
Yeah, yeah.
To come up with your own story.
For sure. You've got the framework. Now you can fill it in with your own story.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've aced the interview.
Yes.
Now let's tackle those everyday conversations. Because those can be tricky too.
They can be.
So Zen English takes sort of unusual approach, sleep learning.
Sleep learning.
What do you think about that?
Well, the science, I mean, who knows how effective that is, really?
Right.
But the thing I found interesting about the video itself was just the amount of repetition
Yeah.
of these very common phrases.
Yeah.
And it really highlights what's actually used in real conversations.
Totally. Yeah.
Eh.
Like, how about you?
Yes,
They use that all the time.
all the time.
It's so simple,
Yeah.
but it just keeps that conversation going.
Yeah.
Gets the other person to share.
Keeps things flowing.
Yeah. Keeps things flowing.
Yeah.
But isn't there a risk of, I don't know, sounding a bit repetitive if you're always using, how about you?
That's a good point. And I think that brings up the importance of having a range of phrases.
Okay.
Think of it like spices. You wouldn't want to use the same spice in every dish, would you?
Right, right.
So instead of just how about you, you could say, what about you?
Or, okay.
What are your thoughts?
Ooh, I like that.
Or I'd love to hear your perspective.
Okay. Those are good. Those are good.
Yeah, there are lots of different ways of doing it.
And you know what else struck me was Speak English with Vanessa. Because she showed how much natural speech is like contracted and reduced.
Yes.
So like, what are you up to this weekend?
Because
Becomes something very different. Yeah.
What's up to?
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how much those sounds can change.
It is.
I think it's key to understanding those contractions, not just for sounding more natural, but for understanding native speakers when they're talking.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like a whole other.
It's like a secret code.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
But sometimes, even if you understand the words,
Right.
figuring out the meaning can be tricky.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where the grammar and intonation come in,
Oh, yeah.
which can be a bit intimidating.
Oh, tell me about it. But you gave us some text articles that actually break it down in a way that makes sense.
They do, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And they make this point about how different types of questions actually have different purposes.
Yeah.
So you've got your yes-no questions, which are very straightforward,
Straightforward.
just looking for a confirmation or denial.
Yeah.
But then you've got your why-what questions, so your who, what, when, where, why.
Oh, okay.
And they dig deeper. They want more specific information.
Oh, that's interesting. I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah, and something else they emphasize was intonation.
Okay.
That rising or falling tone at the end of the sentence can totally change the meaning.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Have you ever been confused by how someone's asked a question, even if you understood the words?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, so intonation is like this hidden layer of meaning.
Yep.
So take, for example, are you going to the party?
Okay.
If you say it with a rising intonation at the end, it's a real question, expecting an answer.
Right.
But if you say it with a flat or falling tone, it almost sounds like a statement.
Wow.
You're assuming they're going.
Like, I know you're going to the party.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a really good example.
So it really can.
It's a secret code.
It is a secret code.
Okay, so we've talked about acing interviews.
Yeah.
We've talked about navigating those everyday conversations.
Right.
We've talked about secret codes.
We have.
But you know what else is really important?
What's that?
Vocabulary.
Yes, very important.
And you gave us some awesome sources that cover a ton of different topics like
Yeah.
school, food, animals, jobs,
Even birthdays.
even birthdays.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, instead of just listing words,
Yeah.
let's pick out a couple of really useful ones from each category that maybe you wouldn't see in a typical textbook.
I like it.
So from the school conversation, I thought extracurricular was useful.
Okay.
You know, it's not just about the classes, it's all that other stuff.
Yes.
Sports, clubs, music.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good conversation starter as well.
It is, yeah, and it tells you something about the person
Totally.
beyond just their academic achievement.
Totally, yeah. And from the food talk, I came across the phrase, to hit the spot.
Oh, nice.
You know, like something really satisfied your craving.
Yeah, yeah.
That burger really hit the spot.
It's very visual.
It is.
It's very expressive.
It is.
Yeah, I like it.
Now, for animals,
Yeah.
there was this term, tuxedo cat,
Oh,
which sounds very fancy,
it does.
but it's just a black and white cat
Right, with the specific markings.
with the specific markings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a fun way to describe your feline friend.
Okay, very good. And for jobs, I thought career ladder was quite insightful.
Yeah.
It gives you this idea of progressing upwards in your career.
Yeah, you're climbing the ladder
I'm in that ladder, yeah.
to get to those higher positions.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. And speaking metaphors, how about over the hill for birthdays?
Oh, yeah.
I have to admit, that one made me chuckle.
It's a humorous way to acknowledge getting older.
It is?
Usually turning 40, but you have to be careful with humor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all about context
On text, yeah.
and knowing your audience,
Exactly.
you know, but learning individual words is one thing.
Yes.
But one of our sources compared the structure of conversations to like a game of tennis.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
What do you think about that?
that's a great analogy, I think. It emphasizes that back and forth, you know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
volley,
The
like
volley.
of questions and responses and how to keep it flowing smoothly.
Yeah, and just like in tennis, you need good timing, good strategy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Keep that ball in play.
Keep it going, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not just about what you say,
Mhm.
but how you react.
Yeah, how you keep that momentum going.
And how you keep the other person engaged.
Yeah, and speaking of that, one source highlighted those like volley questions.
Yes.
The ones that keep the other person engaged.
Yes.
And we talked about, how about you? But there's so many others.
There are, yeah.
So what are some other ones?
Well, it's about tailoring the questions to what the other person has said, you know,
Okay.
to show that you're really listening
Yeah.
and you're interested. So, for example, if they're talking about their plans for the weekend,
Okay.
you could say, anything exciting planned?
Okay.
Or what are you most looking forward to?
I see, yeah.
So it shows that you're really paying attention.
That's so much better than just nodding and saying cool.
It is, yeah.
Because that can feel like you're just,
Waiting for your turn.
yeah, exactly, waiting for your turn to talk.
Exactly.
So what's fascinating to me is how these sources connect these simple techniques
Mm-hmm.
with this bigger picture of building connection and showing empathy,
Yeah, yeah.
which is really cool.
It is.
And another source talked about the art of ending a conversation gracefully.
Oh, yes.
Because, let's face it,
That can be awkward.
sometimes those are the most awkward moments.
They are.
You know, you've had a great chat, but then you're both just kind of standing there, not sure how to wrap things up.
Yeah.
I've definitely been there.
So one of the things that they suggested was to give a really clear signal that you need to go.
Okay.
So you could say something like, it's been great chatting, but I should probably get going. Or,
Okay.
I've got to run, but let's catch up again soon.
Okay, but you got to be genuine.
Oh, absolutely.
If you don't mean it,
Yeah.
don't force it.
Don't force a follow-up.
But if you do want to stay connected, be specific.
Yes.
So instead of, let's do this again sometime.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we should grab coffee next week.
Yes.
What's your schedule like?
Much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it shows you're really interested.
Yeah.
It's much more likely to actually happen.
For sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've talked about a lot of techniques and tips,
We have.
but none of it matters without confidence, right?
You're absolutely right. You could know all the grammar rules and vocabulary.
Yeah.
But if you're too afraid to use it, what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? And one of the sources had this brilliant piece of advice.
Oh, yeah.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
I love that.
What do you think about that?
I think it's such an important point.
Yeah.
And they said to look at those mistakes as an opportunity for growth.
For growth.
Yeah,
It's a good way to look at it.
it is, yeah.
Because, let's be honest, everyone makes mistakes.
Everyone.
Especially when they're learning a new language.
Of course. Of course. It's part of the process.
It's part of the process.
Yeah.
It's totally normal.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it's so important to change that perspective,
Hmm.
you know, because if you're not afraid to make mistakes,
You're more likely to actually speak,
you're more likely to speak,
which is what it's all about.
which is what it's all about.
Yeah.
And then the more you speak,
The more confident you become.
yeah, and then the more those mistakes fade away.
It's a positive cycle.
It is. It is. It's like practice makes progress.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So whether you're trying out a new phrase or you're paying attention to your intonation
Mm.
or you're just smiling more,
Yeah.
take that one nugget
And run with it.
and run with it. See what happens
See what happens. Yeah.
when you put it into practice.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, learning those individual words is one thing, but one of our sources compared the structure of conversations to a game of tennis.
Oh, interesting.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a great analogy because it really emphasizes that back and forth,
Yeah.
that volley of questions and responses that keep a conversation flowing smoothly.
Yeah. And just like in tennis, you need good timing,
Yeah.
good strategy,
Absolutely.
and you've got to keep that ball in play.
Keep it going.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
So it's not just about what you say.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you react and how you keep that momentum going.
Yeah. And how you keep the other person engaged.
Yeah. And speaking of keeping the other person engaged, one of the sources highlighted those volley questions,
Yes.
the ones that really keep them engaged.
Yeah.
We talked about how about you? But there's so many of them.
Oh, there are so many. Yeah.
So what are some other ones?
Well, it's about tailoring the questions to what the other person has said
Okay.
to show that you're really listening and that you're interested. So, for example, if someone's talking about their plans for the weekend,
Okay.
you could say something like, anything exciting planned?
Okay.
Or, what are you most looking forward to?
I see.
So it really shows that you're paying attention.
Yeah. That's so much better than just nodding and saying, cool.
Yeah.
It can make you seem like you're just,
Waiting for your turn.
waiting for your turn to talk.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me how all these sources connect these simple techniques
Yeah.
with this bigger picture of building connection and showing empathy.
It is. It's really interesting. Yeah.
And another source talked about the art of ending a conversation gracefully.
Oh, right. Because sometimes
Because let's face it, those are the most awkward moments.
they can be. Yeah.
You've had a great chat and then you're both just kind of standing there,
Mm-hmm.
not sure how to wrap things up.
Yeah.
I've been there so many times.
One of the things they suggest is to give a really clear signal that you need to go.
Okay.
You could say something like, it's been great chatting, but I should probably get going, or I
Okay.
gotta run, but let's catch up again soon.
But you've got to be genuine, right?
Oh, absolutely.
If you don't really mean it,
Yeah.
don't force a follow-up.
Don't force it.
But if you do want to stay connected,
Yeah.
then be specific.
Be specific. Yeah.
So instead of saying, let's do this again sometime, which is so vague,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, we should grab coffee next week.
Exactly.
What's your schedule like? Yeah, because it shows you're actually interested.
Yeah. And then it's much more likely to actually happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of techniques,
Yeah.
tips,
We have.
but none of it really matters without confidence.
Absolutely.
You can know all the grammar and vocabulary,
Again.
but if you're too afraid to use it,
What's the point?
what's the point? And one of our sources had this great advice.
What's that?
Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
I love that. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It's such an important message to send.
Yeah,
And they said to look at those mistakes as an opportunity to grow.
for growth.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. Everyone makes mistakes, especially when learning a new language.
It's part of the process.
It's part of the process, yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally normal.
Absolutely.
So it's so important to shift that perspective
Yeah.
because if you're not afraid to make mistakes,
You're much more likely to actually speak,
Exactly.
which is what it's all about.
Which is the whole point.
Yeah.
And then the more you speak,
The more confident you'll
the
become.
more confident you become. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the less those mistakes will happen.
It's a positive cycle.
It is. It is. It's like practice makes progress, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So whether you're trying out a new phrase or you're paying attention to your intonation or you're just smiling more,
Yeah.
take that one nugget and run with it.
See what happens.
See what happens, put it into practice.
Yeah, I love that.
So one of the sources talked about the importance of nonverbal communication.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, things like body language, facial expressions, eye contact.
They all play such a big role, don't they?
They do. They do.
Yeah.
I think we really underestimate the power of those nonverbal signals.
We do?
Like imagine someone telling you they're fine,
Right.
but they're frowning and their arms are crossed and they're not making eye contact.
You wouldn't believe him, would you?
You wouldn't believe them at all.
Yeah.
Their body language is telling a totally different story.
Oh.
And one of the sources talked about smiling
Yeah.
and how it can just be like an icebreaker.
It is.
It makes you seem more approachable, more friendly.
It does, yeah.
And even if you're feeling nervous, a genuine smile
Mhm.
can put both of you at ease.
I think so, yeah.
So it's like a superpower.
It is.
But eye contact can be a little bit tricky
It can be, yeah.
for some people,
Yeah.
especially from cultures where it's considered rude.
It's true. Cultural differences play a huge role.
They do, they do. So it's a good thing to be aware of.
Definitely.
But
yeah.
I think even within the same culture,
Yeah.
some people are just more comfortable with eye contact
And others, for sure.
than others. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even if you're not a fan of like staring contests,
Right.
I think making those brief but meaningful eye contact moments throughout the conversation
Yeah.
shows that you're present,
Yeah, you're engaged.
engaged, you're listening.
You're interested.
Yeah, you're interested.
Yeah.
So we've got smiling,
Yes.
eye contact.
What about body language in general?
Oh yeah, what about that?
Yeah.
Well, one source said that those open, expansive postures
Uh-huh.
generally show confidence,
Yeah.
approachability,
Mm-hmm.
while closed-off postures can signal maybe defensiveness.
Right, or disinterest.
Yeah, or disinterest.
Yeah.
So try to uncross your arms.
Relax those shoulders.
Yeah.
Turn towards the person you're speaking to.
Yeah.
It shows that you're open and receptive.
Yeah. And don't forget about gestures,
Gestures, yes.
because sometimes words fail us,
They do.
or we want to add a little emphasis or clarity,
Yeah.
and that's where gestures come in.
They're like a visual aid
They are.
to your speech.
Yeah. So even simple gestures like nodding your head
Mhm.
or raising your eyebrows
Yeah.
can add a lot of depth
Yeah, I can.
to the communication.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've covered so much,
A lot.
from specific words and phrases
Yeah.
to the flow of conversations, nonverbal superpowers.
Way up.
What does it all mean for someone who really wants to be a better English conversationalist?
I think it shows that becoming a better communicator goes beyond just memorizing vocabulary and grammar.
Okay.
It's about this holistic understanding of how communication works, both verbally and non-verbally.
Right.
It's about being present, being aware of yourself and the other person,
Yeah.
and just using all the tools that you have to make those connections.
Beautifully said. It's like putting together a puzzle, right?
It is.
And each piece, the words, the grammar, the intonation, the body language,
Yeah,
they all fit together to create that complete picture.
they could do.
And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating.
It is.
It's not about learning English in a vacuum.
Mhm.
It's about using it in real life
Absolutely.
to connect with people, to share ideas,
To build relationships.
to build relationships.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the sources that you gave really highlight that.
They do, yeah.
You know, we've gone from acing that job interview to confidently navigating those everyday chats
Mhm.
and even understanding those unspoken cues.
Yeah.
That can make or break connections.
Yeah, for sure.
So as we wrap up, I have
Yeah.
a question for you.
Okay.
Out of all the tips and insights that we've talked about today, what's the one thing that stood out to you?
That's a tough one. There were so many good ones, but I think the emphasis on embracing mistakes really resonated with me because it reminds us that learning isn't about being perfect.
Right.
It's about making progress.
I like that.
And sometimes those oops moments, they teach us the most.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
It kind of takes the pressure off, right?
It is, yeah.
Because if you're not so worried about making mistakes,
You're much more likely to actually speak,
you're just going to speak.
which is what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And then the more you speak, the more confident you become.
absolutely.
And then those mistakes will just fade away.
It's a positive cycle.
It is. It is. It's like practice makes progress, right?
Exactly.
So whether it's trying out a new phrase or paying attention to your intonation
Yeah.
or just smiling more,
Yeah.
take that one nugget and run with it
Yeah, I love that.
and see what happens when you put it into practice.
Put it into practice. That's a great takeaway.
And remember, learning English
Yeah.
isn't just about the destination.
It's about enjoying the journey.
It's about the journey.
The connections you make, the stories you share,
I like that.
and all the new perspectives that you gain along the way.
Beautifully said. It's like opening up a whole new world
It
of communication or possibilities.
It is.
So keep those conversations flowing, keep practicing,
Yeah.
keep learning, and most importantly,
What's that?
keep having fun with it.
Yeah, I love that.
So if you're feeling inspired,
Yeah.
why not share your biggest takeaway from this deep dive with a friend
Yeah.
or on social media?
Yeah.
Spread the joy of learning English.
Absolutely. Great idea.
Until next time, happy Englishing. It's like putting together a puzzle, right?
Yeah.
And each piece, the words, the grammar, the intonation, the body language,
Yeah.
they all fit together to create that complete picture.
Yeah, they do.
And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating, you know?
It is.
It's not about learning English in a vacuum like a textbook.
Yeah.
It's about using it in real life,
Yeah.
connecting with people, sharing ideas,
Building relationship.
building relationships.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the sources that you gave us, they really highlight that.
They do.
You've gone from acing that job interview
Mm-hmm.
to like confidently navigating those everyday chats
Right.
to even understanding those unspoken cues.
Yeah.
That can make or break a connection.
Yeah, for sure.
So as we wrap up, I
Okay.
have a question for you.
Okay.
Out of all the tips and insights that we've talked about today,
Yeah.
what is the one thing that really stood out to you? Like, what's the golden nugget that you're going to try and use in your next English conversation?
Oh, that's a good question. I think for me, it's the emphasis on embracing mistakes. It's just a good reminder that learning isn't about being perfect.
Right.
It's about progress.
Mm.
And sometimes those oops moments, they teach us the most.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
And it takes the pressure off, right?
It does.
Because if you're not so worried about making a mistake,
You're more likely to speak.
you're just going to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, which is what it's all about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the more you speak, the more confident you become.
Absolutely.
And then the mistakes start to fade away.
Yeah, it's a positive cycle.
It is a positive cycle. So it's like practice makes progress.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So whether it's trying out a new phrase or paying attention to your intonation
Mm-hmm.
or even just smiling more,
Yeah,
take that one nugget and run with it
I love that.
and see what happens when you put it into practice.
Put it into practice.
And remember, learning English,
Yeah.
it isn't just about the destination.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the journey, right?
It is. It's about the connections you make along the way, the stories that you share, and the new perspectives that you gain.
Oh, beautifully said. It's about opening up a whole new world
Yes.
of communication and possibilities.
Yes.
So keep those conversations flowing, keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly,
What's that?
keep having fun with it.
I love that.
So if you're feeling inspired, why not share your biggest takeaway from this deep dive with a friend or on social media?
Yeah, great idea.
Spread the joy of learning English. Until next time, happy Englishing.